gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Patreon episode. Still in Miami. Haven't left yet. Latin Ben Avery here is with us. We appreciate it. For the second time, we'll be rejoining Ben in Reading, Pennsylvania for the show. Tomorrow, there may be some tickets left. I don't know. I bet there's a few tickets left for Reading, Pennsylvania. And then we're in Atlanta. Atlanta, there is a second show that we have added that tickets are creeping slowly. The first show sold out immediately. The second show, we've got a lot of room. So if you're in Atlanta and you want to go to the show, there's tickets available for the late show. St. Louis, Missouri, we have a show on Sunday. And then we're wrapping this bad boy up. There's not a ton left. We've got a few more cities, and then we're hitting the UK for a week if they don't shut it down because of Omicron. And we're in Ireland. We're in Dublin. We are in Glasgow, Scotland. We are in London. Sold out a few shows in London, but there are tickets. We've added shows. We've added a show in Dublin. Grab those tickets now if it doesn't get shut down. I don't know if it will or not. You know, the CEO of Pfizer goes, we may need a fourth shot. People I know haven't even gotten the third. People are starting to get their third. CEO of Pfizer goes, we may need a fourth. We may need to boost the booster for Omicron, even though it's mild, even though there are no deaths, even though people that get it, 1 out of every 45 is hospitalized. The vast majority of people don't seem to be suffering from severe illness. We still may need a fourth booster, maybe a fifth. Let's just start talking about a fifth while we're there. Why stop at 4? I got a good feeling about 6. I got a good feeling about the number 6, half a dozen. How much is it allowed to ask? Are you allowed to ask how much COVID should you inject yourself with before you're free of COVID? How much? Is that a question you should ask? Can you ask that question without being exiled from polite society? Is it okay to say, hey, should I do this every year? Is it a good idea to take this vaccine that we developed months ago every single year? I don't know. New York City now introduced or is in the process of introducing a vaccine requirement for children 5 and up to go indoors. Children 5 and up. You know, Florida, Texas, other states holding out, not doing the vax requirements. And now they're talking about changing the definition of fully vaccinated from the 2 shots to 3, perhaps. And now there's all these articles coming out, you know, is it safe to hang out with the unboosted? They've given people a name now, the people that don't have the booster, they're the unboosted. Perhaps they are now the ones to fear. The unboosted. There's a weird nitpicky kind of preening moralism that proponents of all these government mandates have, and it's pretty obvious, is very off-putting to human beings that are trying to navigate this world like anybody else. When you have these articles coming out and there are these new kind of pejoratives to describe people, the unboosted. It's a weird upper middle class soccer mom, you know, very kind of dismissive attitude to have towards anybody that has any question about any of the things happening right now. It's very unattractive. It's a very unattractive mindset to have. And that's what, you know, I've been noticing from the way that a lot of people are talking about this or handling these conversations. If you have any questions at all, you are dismissed as a crank, as a lunatic, as some type of conspiracy theorist. You're a QAnon, you're whatever. And the reality is you're just confused. Many people, myself included, are a little confused about the course of action when you go, okay, if you're vaccinated, you can take the masks off, and then the masks come back on. And then you need a booster. But then Omicron, you might need a fourth. And you start questioning it and going, well, wait a minute. Are there treatments for this? Treatments are in the works. Well, how long are they going to take? Omicron's not that serious. This is from doctors. I didn't make that up. They're saying that. The messaging from the CDC and the World Health Organization and the CEO of Pfizer and Moderna, they're all different. And the White House, they're all different. And do we need the CEOs of pharmaceutical companies taking shots at each other over whose vaccine is better? Is that helpful? It's not Arby's and Wendy's on Twitter fighting. These are the CEOs of fucking vaccines you put in your body, taking shots at each other, making jokes about which one's good, which one works, and which one doesn't. Is that productive? Do we need that? Should they maybe stop doing that? Should that give me pause a little bit? That billionaire CEOs are shitting on each other's products, and those products are supposedly necessary for life? Again, it's all fun when fast food companies shit you shouldn't eat anyway. Shit you should be embarrassed to eat. You should be embarrassed to go to Arby's. You should be embarrassed to go to Wendy's. And I've gone to Wendy's. A lot. Never proudly. Yeah, vaccine mascots. What's next? How commercialized can this space get without us starting to doubt what's happening or question what's happening? So when the fast food companies do it, it's one thing. It's cute. I have a joke about it in my act about fast food companies shitting on each other all over social media. But when it's pharmaceutical companies, oh, you don't want that vaccine. Ugh. It's a little disturbing. But I think we're at the end of this. I think we're in the death throes of this. Hopefully, people care less and less. People are over it for the most part. Absent a crippling wave of disease over the winter, I think we are done. And there's a whole bureaucracy that's built up around this. It's going to cling. I mean, it's like after 9/11, after a few years, people were going, yeah, I'm at the mall now. I'm not thinking of sarin gas coming into this Victoria's Secret anymore. I know that you're telling me I should, and that it's irresponsible if I don't. And that I'm doing a disservice to myself walking down the street and not imagining buildings falling on me. But I can't do that anymore to live. As a human being, I have to move on. And if you die, you die. But you can't live in a constant state of fear. You can't. And if the goal is that every new variant that's mild requires another booster and more regulations and more anxiety and fear, that's not a good goal. And I know that the media right now is spending more time on this than they are spending on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, which is the biggest human trafficking trial in the history of America. What did Joe Rogan say about the vaccine? How about another article about that? What did Joe Rogan say about the vaccine again? Can we write a 10,000th article about the Joe Rogan experience, a podcast, instead of covering the biggest human trafficking trial that has ever happened? There is zero interest from the media, as predicted, at getting to the bottom of what the fuck Jeffrey Epstein was, why he did what he did, and how he was able to get away with it. There's zero interest, but there's a lot of interest in constantly writing about Joe Rogan like he's running a human trafficking operation. He's talking in a room in Austin, Texas. And there's more interest in him. Why do people listen to Joe Rogan? Why are there so many young men enthralled with Joe? Well, why are there so many older men fucking kids on an island? And why do so many of those people occupy the highest positions in our society? Can we devote a little time to that? One thing the media did, and this made me cry, I started laughing so hard in bed when I read this article. They have finally started to cover the Maxwell trial, and they're literally profiling the sketch artist who's, I'm not even kidding. Okay, this is the Times in the UK. The sketch artist for Ghislaine Maxwell's trial on being the Holbein of crime, Jane Rosenberg, who has covered trials for 40 years, tells Will Pavia about drawing the famous defendant and how she feels about Maxwell turning her pencil on her. I didn't finish it yesterday, says Jane Rosenberg, leaning forward over her drawing board, filling in the edges of a vast scene. She is like any other artist, back at the easel the next morning, although hers is at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And Rosenberg is not quite in the same seat. Look how far away I am, she complains. Pretty bad. Maxwell's chief attorney, Bobby Sternheim, sweeps by now in a longer. Who gives a fuck about the sketch artist and what it's like to sketch Ghislaine Maxwell? Are you on crack? Today, we interviewed the coffee truck outside of the Maxwell trial. What's it like to sell coffee? We spent time with one of the bomb-sniffing dogs and discussed how working dogs throughout history have, God, can you focus on the kids being fucked by the leaders of the country? Does anybody care? Does anybody care? There's zero care. All these people on Twitter that claim to care about oppression and sexual violence and the rights of women, they apparently don't care about the rights of these women. There's like nothing going on. These people were up in arms about Kyle Rittenhouse. They were up in arms about all these other things. They were tweeting endlessly that every opinion that crossed their mind flooded their Twitter timelines. They had to get it out. But this, maybe one snarky comment here and there, but for the most part, they let it go. They let it go. Being concerned about human trafficking is apparently a, quote, right-wing pastime. It's right-wing. And the problem is the QAnon conspiracy theory, which we all know is a deranged take on a very actual problem. QAnon started off with the idea that there was some secret war being waged against a cabal of pedophiles. Now we understand that there is no war against a cabal of pedophiles at all. Secret, public, no war. But that was the idea. There was a secret war against a cabal of pedophiles. And then it took, a very cinematic turn to where the pedophiles had been rounded up and executed. And then the people that you saw in public were doubles, drones. They were AI. And JFK Jr., who lost his life in a plane crash, was going to return. And all of the QAnon people have now moved on to talking about vaccines or Bitcoin or whatever. They go, they grift, they're quick. They're stick and move hustlers, the QAnon people. If you look at what they were talking about 2 years ago, it was Reiki healing. They were new age Reiki healers, and they were talking about toxins and chemtrails. And then QAnon came into play, and they were like, let's do that. Now they're on the vaccine tip, but when they get off the vaccine tip, they'll go somewhere else. It always ends at aliens. It always ends there. That's the final stage of all of these things. But let's give QAnon its due. They were right about one thing. There seems to be a cabal of pedophiles. Maybe not one cabal. Maybe there's a few cabals. And maybe they're not eating children, which I never understood the need to believe they were eating children. That they're, eating or drinking, I forget what it was called, the the adrenochrome to stay young forever. I mean, I never understood why you had to believe that to just get upset. Couldn't it be the kids were just being fucked? Isn't that bad? Well, no, there's really bad stuff, actually. Wait, what about the kids being fucked? Yeah, but I mean, you haven't heard the bad stuff. What? But the kids being kidnapped and fucked. No, they eat them. They put them on barbecues. I go, wait, what? We don't have to believe that to be enraged that innocent children are having their lives destroyed by members of our society with impunity. They're getting away with it. But let's give QAnon its due. They were correct about that, right? I mean, seemingly, they were right about that. They were kind of on the money about the cabal of pedophiles. Whether they're eating children or not, that seems to be immaterial. But it does seem to be that that's a bigger problem than anyone really wants to talk about. And it doesn't seem like there's a hell of a lot of people really interested in getting to the bottom of that. I know that people thought it was Donald Trump at one point, but it's not. Donald Trump cared about one thing, Donald Trump. And he took his supporters on a ride, and many of them are sobering up from that experience in the way that you sober up from a decade of drinking or drug use. You start to realize your friends weren't really your friends. The bar you hung out at wasn't really a ton of fun. In fact, it was a hell that you destroyed your life at. And these revelations come to you little by little, these realizations. You go, oh, that relationship I was in wasn't great. It was just two people feeding off each other's negative energy and eventually destroying each other. So that's the MAGA cult is starting to wake up, I believe. Some of them, the ones that aren't completely lost forever, and there's a few of them, to be sure, but they're starting to wake up and go, oh, see, yeah, Trump wasn't really concerned with freeing the children. He wasn't really concerned with that. He was more concerned. Trump was like he was like a comedian with a big draw. He liked doing shows. He liked being on tour. You know, if Trump had a live agent, and he did, he was with WME, but Trump did events. He did public appearances, and they were good, and he knew how to kill. He had a great live show. He worked with the audience. He did crowd work. He riffed. He went off the dome. He went off the top of his head. He was great. But behind that, there was nothing. No shadow war. No inner workings of anything happening. Nobody putting the Clintons in Guantanamo Bay and locking them up. There was none of that. Not to say that some of that wouldn't have been needed, but I think we can all admit that the people that believe that were taken for a ride. But in the same vein, when you look at the disparity of the media coverage between like Epstein and Ghislaine and Kyle Rittenhouse, why do we know more about this kid than we do about Jeffrey Epstein? Who do you think had more power in America? Kyle Rittenhouse, a chubby fucking kid, or Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire financier who was friends with a prince and hung out with Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of a media mogul, intel agent? Who had more power? Because the psychopaths on Twitter want you to believe that chubby Kyle Rittenhouse and his chubby mama, who go out drinking together, and Kyle, who was down there in Kenosha with his gun, trying to do whatever, help or whatever, guard, got ran up on by a few dudes and shot him. And we heard about that endlessly. And people talk about Kyle Rittenhouse like he's he's a representation of the white male rage. He's a little chubby kid that shouldn't have been patrolling the streets with a gun, because we should not have untrained children running up and down the streets with guns. But if you get rid of all the order in society and abolish the police, you will have vigilantism and people killing each other. But we hear endlessly about Kyle Rittenhouse. We don't hear much about Jeffrey Epstein. You think Jeffrey Epstein was ever in Kenosha, Wisconsin? Do you think he even knew what the fuck it was? Let's be honest about Jeffrey and Ghislaine, and this is going to be uncomfortable to say. They had a lot of goddamn class. They had a lot of class. It pains me to say it. I don't want to say it. It's wrong, but they had a lot of class. They had a lot of class, folks. Can you be a human trafficker, a satanic pedophile, a horrible person, a money laundering, maybe drug running, intelligence agent, blackmailing the president, and have class? Sorry, but yes, they had a little bit of class. Did you see that outfit she was wearing with the shoulder pads and the little, listen, they did it well. I was at Art Basel, and I'm spending time with these trash bags down here at the Playboy party, and they got a human cake, and it's gross, and it's not even sexy anymore, and you look at it and you go, listen, absent the kids' lives being destroyed, which we're all on the same page, it's unforgivable, and they should be punished by death. Absent that, let's be honest, they had a little class. They had a little class. And it's tough. It's tough. But all we hear about is, Kyle Rittenhouse. Like this guy is some symbol of American power. He was a scared kid who did probably, from what I saw, what he had to do to stay alive. That was what that there's no way you could have got a conviction there. No way. Nor should you have. But we hear endlessly, and we don't hear about Jeffrey Epstein. We've heard nothing about Les Wexner. I mean, just nobody cares. It's odd. The world is too broken for a solution. It's why you have to buy a condo in Miami. It's the only solution you have left is to buy a condo in Miami and begin to understand NFTs. I want to buy a condo here. The prices are a little high. But I do think I need to begin my migration to Florida. It's the only place that makes any sense. Austin, Texas is a practical joke that I've been a part of for far too long. Okay? It's a bit. Austin, Texas is a bit. It's a sketch that's gone on for too long. LA, they're putting guns in your face when you're just trying to have some truffle shaved on your pasta. They're putting guns in your... I don't even have a watch to steal. I don't even have a nice watch to steal. They're going to kidnap me and make me perform sex acts, or even worse, not make me perform them even after I've offered. If you put a gun in my face in LA, I'm going to offer to suck your dick. And if you say no, it's going to be disrespectful and it's going to make me feel bad. If I even think you have a gun, I'm going to offer to suck your dick in Beverly Hills to save the table. Oh, why is he getting on his knees? He's offering to suck that guy's dick so it doesn't take our watches. Florida seems like the only logical solution in a world that's gone mad. It's its own country. People have divorced themselves from the idea that life is supposed to have a purpose. People don't have any purpose here. The search for purpose is ultimately destructive. In Florida, there is none. People just kind of, food should be better than it is. In certain spots, it's good. A lot of places, it's not good. Because you think about it, you go, well, why would it be? Why would it be good? The utter laziness that people have here, what are they going to be like, committed to making a good fish taco? Florida food is like 1 square inch of tuna, seared, overcooked, thrown in a taco with like cabbage they found and some fucking sauce, and that's it. And you just eat it by the pool while getting melanoma. And it's a better life. But I am down here looking at condos. I think I want to have a part-time residence in Florida. I think it makes sense. I think maybe not immediately, but soon. I think it's time. I've been fighting it for a long time, but I come from Long Island. Florida's in my blood. You know, since I was a little kid, I understood that eventually, if you grew up in Long Island, there were 3 places for you to go. Holyrood Cemetery in Hicksville. Jail, Florida. There were 3 places to go. Holyrood's a great cemetery. Many people I know are there. And then, of course, jail, somewhere upstate New York. Or if you made it past those 2 things, you would end up somewhere in Florida. East Coast, West Coast. Doesn't really matter. It's sunny. People eat dinner at 4 or 5 p.m. They're in bed early, or they're not, or they're up late doing coke in a pay-by-the-hour motel, cheating on their wife. I visited an ex-girlfriend recently, like a girl I used to, hang out with in high school, and she's got a great husband and a beautiful family. And it was such a nice, alternative to Art Basel, because they're human beings, and they didn't talk about crypto. And they had great little appetizers, like the things I grew up with, pigs in a blanket, and those little quiches. And we watched Succession, and their kids ran around, and their dogs ran around, and there was so much life around them. It was amazing. And all those Art Basel parties, I was there with hundreds of people, and almost no life. No real, actual, verifiable life at any of those parties. And they live out in a suburb of Palm Beach, and they got a cool house, and they're happy. And the girl's starting like a business, coffee business, and they're living. And how could they do that in New York or Los Angeles? It's too much money, Gentrification to make more room in Miami. Well, what does that mean? Yeah, well, it's the story of every city on the come up, is that the people that gave this city culture and made it unique and interesting are leaving or being pushed to the margins. And then the same tech people, my friend was at a tech party the other night. The guy's ordering a taco, and the guy's like, "What kind of taco do you want? You're from LA. You should get a kimchi taco. Your people like that. It's good for your vagina." So those same type of tech bros, they come in and they kill everything. The great travel writer A.A. Gill says all of these people kill what they claim to crave, which is true. The uncertainty, and I don't mean uncertain, like you don't have to get stabbed every day for it to be uncertain, but I mean the kind of interesting mix of people that you would get in a city like Miami. But there doesn't seem to be a way around that either. There's floods of these people coming in. There's nothing to do. That's why when I come here, I won't move. If I come, I won't move to a Wynwood. I'm not going to displace anybody. I'm going to an area where people have always been elderly. Just old Jews and Russians, I don't want to feel responsible for kicking a family out of their house. I want to take an old couple and throw them off a balcony and move into their apartment and keep the Rococo furniture. Keep the plastic covered couch. I'll sit on it and stick to it and scream. I don't need anything modern. A great book about this city was written by Tom Wolfe, who wrote The Bonfire of the Vanities. He wrote a book called Back to Blood. It was about Miami being the city of the future. If you take any recommendations from me on this show, and I don't know if you do or not, but that's a good one. Gary V's people reached out. He wants to sit down. Gary V, I'd love to meet Gary V. I guess it will be private. I don't know if it will be public. But me and Gary V are going to have a sit down. 2 great minds sitting together, talking. It'll be great to hop on the thing. Gary's a big believer in NFTs. I've listened to hours of what he said over the last couple of days about NFTs. I think he's right in the sense that the technology is there, the demand is there, but there's a lot of bad actors in the space, a lot of things that are way overpriced. The same people that got into subprime mortgages, that got into solar panels or online advertising, the same pump and dump stock guys, the same people that drift from unregulated business to unregulated business, the same people that, slip into the saloon in the Wild West of whatever unregulated product is being pumped. They're going to create a problem. They're going to create bubbles. And Gary's right about that. He's a big believer in digital ownership, the concept of digital ownership. I am not yet. I don't know yet. On the fence. Is that what he does, Gary Vee? 64 pieces of content a day? He recommends that. I think that's too much. I think 64 pieces of content a day is too much. I may do 20 if you count Twitter, Instagram, 64 is a lot. But he might be right. But he's very big into that concept of digital ownership, of owning something digitally. And he said if people could wrap their heads around that concept, people would understand NFTs more than they do right now. Which, again, I'm struggling with that concept a little. Not theoretically. I'm struggling with the application of it in the real world at this moment in time with the tools that people have and the amount of potential problems that will arise from the scams that are inherently associated with this new type of ownership. I struggle with it, but it doesn't mean that I won't figure it out or understand that maybe I'm wrong or maybe I'm overstating those problems. Maybe my worries are, unnecessary. But that is the crux of his argument. You're going to want to own things online like you own them offline, like you have paintings in your house. You have memorabilia scattered throughout your apartment. That ownership that you have, why you own things for pride or for an investment, you're going to want to own those things online. But he does concede that the space is littered right now with bad actors, and there's a lot of stuff that's frankly overpriced. It's way too much money. It's not going to be worth, and I think he even used a word, and I don't want to misquote him, but maybe around the 90%. It was a high percentage right now of what's out there being overpriced, overvalued. Doesn't mean there's no value. Just means you got to watch out. Like real estate right now, is it too high? Certainly. The prices of things are insane. Doesn't mean that there's not real value there, but it's like crazy. When you look at the cost of things you're buying, rates are very low. You've seen more appreciation in a single year than you have maybe at any time in history the last year because of COVID. Because people went into the market for single family homes. They wanted property. They wanted space. They wanted out of cities like New York and LA. They wanted into cities like Austin and Miami and Nashville. The growth of those cities is record pace. And the growth of the prices is insane too. And what offsets that is that interest rates are insanely low. They're in the twos. You're playing with house money. So the thing is, do you buy now? Do you wait for the interest rates to go up and the prices fall? You may be breaking even. Or do you wait for the crash? A big Chinese company defaulted. This was big. And is this Chinese? Yes. Evergrande has defaulted on its debt. embattled Chinese property developer has defaulted on its debt, according to Fitch Ratings. The credit ratings agency on Thursday downgraded the company and its subsidiaries to, quote, restricted default. By the way, that'll be the U.S. soon, meaning that the firm has failed to meet its financial obligations. Fitch said the downgrade reflects the company's inability to pay interest due earlier this week on $2 denominated bonds. The payments were due a month ago, and the grace period lapsed Monday. Evergrande has about $300 billion in total liabilities. And analysts have worried for months about whether a default could trigger a wider crisis in China's property market, hurting homeowners and the broader financial system. The U.S. Federal Reserve warned last month that trouble in Chinese real estate could damage the global economy. Well, then you know what happens. The global economy means that it's going to affect Miami Beach, New York, L.A., a lot of cities in America that are recipients of a lot of foreign money. A lot of buyers in these cities are not from the U.S. I don't know if this is the first domino to fall in a broader problem. It's hard to know, but it does suggest that maybe there's going to be a reckoning somewhere down the line. The COVID surge seems to be over. The surge of people leaving and fleeing and buying because of COVID, that seems to be wrapping up. The broader economy seems to be in the toilet or heading there very quickly. And you'd imagine that real estate prices have to slide a little bit or normalize from where they were. I don't know. You're hearing little bits of that. But what we need, if you're a buyer, what we need right now is a crash. We need a crash. We need a 20 to 30% decline. You need the dreams of people to have to get more realistic. People have to understand that everything they thought was going to happen may not happen the way. That's a crash. A crash is people going, wait a minute, what the fuck? And we don't have that. And things are too expensive right now. But all we need is a little blood in the water, a little lamb's blood on the door, as my uncle used to say, just a little crack in the foundation. You see sellers, nervous-looking realtors running around, empty buildings, depressed doormen, people terrified, just empty condos, couples taking pictures on empty beaches. Where did everybody go? Why isn't everybody here? Because the crash. And again, yes, I just want to get a better deal on a condo. And if we have to have a market crash for me to get $200,000 taken off a condo, well, that's what has to happen. If a couple of people got to jump off their balcony and China has to put a few billionaires in the Ritz-Carlton and put them in the, in the rack, whatever medieval torture device they'll use, if that results in just $150,000 off a condo with a good view, then I'm for it. Yeah, I'm looking at an article right now. Does sex sell in the luxury real estate market? Well, it does until it doesn't. There's too many rich people right now, and there's too many people that think they're rich, which is an even bigger problem. And those are the type of people that buy the bullshit lifestyle brochures from these new buildings with the gym and the sauna and the beach access and the private restaurant and the concierge and the doorman and the valet parking and the, whatever, everything's arranged for you. And those are the people that are looking to, but what we need is a bloodletting, a good old-fashioned 2008 bloodletting. That's all. That's what we need. The Maxwell trial is not hurting global real estate prospects. It should, by the way. Like, if the Maxwell trial was being prosecuted the way it should be, billionaires and millions should be selling. They should be getting out. They should be unloading penthouses. They should be terrified, getting on their yachts, sailing away, getting houses in countries with non-extradition treaties. They should be fleeing the U.S. They should be watching the Maxwell trial from a boat in international waters. If that trial had any teeth, if the prosecution had any teeth, but it doesn't. So you have people that aren't scared. They don't give a fuck. Doesn't bother them at all. But it should matter. Like, there should be some reckoning. And so if Ghislaine gets sacrificed, which is, I read a Chris Hedges article, and he believes she might be sacrificed. You know, like, she might be just thrown in the clink. She might be thrown in jail. But this class of people that just kind of committed these crimes, they're not going to feel anything. It should be the whole theme of next year's $1 Million Listing. Why is your client unloading his house? Well, he was mentioned in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and, he's got to unload some of his liabilities. It should be the theme of next season of Selling Sunset. All of Ghislaine Maxwell's friends have to sell their houses at a big loss because of what's happened. But you don't see that. They're buying more. Here's how not scared the billionaire class is. They're actually buying more houses. They're buying more islands to fuck the kids on. Not only are they not scared, they're like emboldened. They're like, okay, the worst happened, so what? We whacked Jeffrey and then this bitch is in jail and we're good. They're emboldened. They're like, yeah, so what? The house of cards fell down. We're all standing. Fuck you, motherfucker. It's like when they used to suspend me. They'd give me suspension. I'm like, I'm a dirtbag kid. I don't want to be in school anyway. So you're going to send me home to smoke cigarettes? Great. I've won. But there should be more fear. But there is none. And if you watch Succession, and they do a kind of great job of like talking about that class of people, they're incapable of feeling human emotions. They have animal-like emotions, and fear is one of them. But they're incapable of anything more complex than that. And it's just amazing. It's just amazing to see that there's not going to be any reckoning as we thought. But what are you going to do? But the guy, Josh Duggar, who is a disgusting individual, he's going to jail. A lot of people are going, is Ghislaine going to take the stand? Please, God, let her do it. Please, God, let this woman take the stand. Because, first of all, we all know we're going to fall in love with her. I mean, it won't be videotaped. That's a problem. We all know we're going to fall in love with her because she's charming. She's going to get up there and she's going to be charming. And she's going to be like, oh, darling. Oh, darling. Oh, absolutely, darling. How are you? If she says that, people are going to, Americans love British accents. We love it. It makes us, it's classy. You know, this is a British colony. We get it. There's still a little respect for the crown. Oh, darling. Oh, I'm terribly disturbed by what these girls say Jeffrey did to them. You think you know someone and you don't know them at all. You don't know them at all, darling. If she does that, if she acts like one of those chicks in Absolutely Fabulous, she's gonna walk. She's getting off. Put her on the fucking stand. And let her be, darling, human trafficking, I wouldn't dare. Darling, I wouldn't dare. Jeffrey was a friend of mine. He was always into some sordid affair. I didn't really know what it is. I respect privacy. I'm a woman that was taken advantage of by this man. It's a world of bad men out there. I mean, it could be like a Shakespearean thing and she just make it off. If she is as charming as you would imagine that somebody like her had to be, right? She's got to be charming. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell has to be fun. It doesn't work if she's not fun. And I don't mean that she's not a demon, but I mean the demons are often fun, right? I mean, it's the whole point. Demons can't just be scary because they wouldn't get anywhere. Like the woman probably made you feel great at a party. Truly. She probably made you feel so good at a party. Everybody hung out with this bitch. There's a reason for that. They weren't all pedophiles. Maybe they were. But there's a lot of people who are probably just like, she's a fun bitch. This is a fun bitch. She likes to drink. She's a little naughty. She's a little naughty. I feel like she wasn't constrained by PC culture. I think she let it fly a little bit when she had a couple of drinks. She gave you the real opinion. She seems like a fun mom. All these dumb shows, The Real Housewives, these fake cunts, half of them aren't even rich. None of them, let's be clear, could hold a candle to Ghislaine Maxwell in terms of position in society and being a badass. And listen, yes, okay, all the disclaimers, I'm making the disclaimers. Bad, bad, bad. Whatever. We get it. But let's just talk about, for a second, let's just talk about what these Real Housewives pretend to be versus what this bitch was. This bitch had everybody on speed dial. This bitch was that bitch. Truly. It's such a fascinating story, and nobody's telling it. It's so weird. We're obsessed with money and fame and connections and luxury lifestyle and all this bullshit. And yet, for some reason, the same media that glamorizes all of this, we can't get into this story. Why not? Americans want to hear about the yachts and the secret islands. This isn't like math or something hard. This isn't like a healthcare debate that Americans largely have no interest in until their leg is on the other side of the highway. This is fucking the Real Housewives of human trafficking, and nobody cares. Not one motherfucker wants to put this on TV. This should be O.J. Simpson style. Every night we sit down and hear about this bad bitch. A madam, an old school madam, jet setting around the globe. Bill Clinton's in her pocket. Prime ministers of countries like Ehud Barak, supposedly, in her pocket. Senators, governors, CEOs, billionaires. Glenn Dubin in New York, billionaire. You read these stories in Vanity Fair, salacious, crazy material. And there's no interest. But I just will say that. What a life. What a life she lived. It's, when you look at a life, yes, when you look at a life and you see the many different ways it can go, the many different things. I mean, this woman really, I'm going to say it, and it's going to sound heartless, and I don't mean it to be. This woman lived her best life. She lived her best life. For a human trafficker, much of it is loading people in trucks at the Mexican border. It's not very glamorous. Truly. She was the top of the chain. She was the top of the food chain. And it is a fascinating story. A dad who's an intelligence guy in the Mossad, sisters and brothers, everybody's in intelligence. And she ran the blackmail op. She ran the honeypot. Wasn't the smartest in the family, for sure. Not the most capable, maybe not the most trustworthy. But she was in charge of the honeypot. Everybody in the Maxwell family got a root of intelligence. Some people did tech. Some people did other things, maybe more military stuff, media stuff. Ghislaine, she got the honey pot. You go run the honey pot with Jeffrey Epstein, with that tall guy with an egg-shaped penis. You guys go get an island in the South Pacific and blackmail it. I'm sorry, the French Virgin Islands, and blackmail everybody. What a crazy family to come from. You know, you have to do something. You know, she's not really good at, she probably didn't, have the brains to do what her sisters did in tech. But she got to meet all the cool people. She got to meet all the celebrities. And they were like, oh, I don't like. So Ghislaine just gets to go to an island and fuck everybody and hang out with celebrities. And I've got to sell Promise software. And it was, what a weird family. I want to know more about the inner dynamics of the way that family works. How did it ultimately come down to the fact that Ghislaine was suited for the pedo ring? Somebody had to come to her, the dad or somebody goes, you're going to do the pedo ring. Yeah, you're going to do the pedo ring. We need it. Hey, Ghislaine, it's an important job. Maybe she volunteered for it. Maybe they groomed her and picked her out and started fucking her when she was young. I don't know. But there should be some reporting on it. There should be something other than that we interviewed the sketch artist. We interviewed her hairstylist. We interviewed, the crossing guard standing outside the courthouse. We interviewed everybody except anybody that had any inside information on the case. We interviewed everybody, but nobody. So we'll be following it closely. They have a few victims. We're going to do in-depth on the regular episode. We were dark this week. The victims are saying what the victims have said for the last 2 years, right? Ghislaine's lawyer is doing a pretty good job trying to separate Ghislaine from Jeffrey's conduct, saying, yeah, she might have walked you into the house. She may have walked you into the room. She may have recruited you, but she did not do anything to you. That was Jeffrey. And I don't know if the jury is going to buy that, but it's a jury made of Americans. They're made up of Americans. These aren't the brightest people. These are people that had to say they don't have a strong opinion on it before they got picked. Imagine those people. These are people that had to go, who's Ghislaine? What's this? I don't really have a strong opinion on it. Pick me. So have you heard about the Jeffrey Epstein fucking the kids? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know. You have any strong feelings on that? Nah, not really. Oh, come on in. You're bright. So do you have any strong feelings on the human trafficking ring with all the billionaires running the world? No, not really. I don't care. So those are that's the caliber of people in the jury box. It's not the upper echelons. And I'm telling you right now, if she gets on the stand and she's charming and she's like, oh, darling, stop it. Oh, yes. And she shows a little leg and she looks good. And a lot of people have a big problem thinking that a woman could do any of this. That is some of that internalized misogyny being like, can a woman really be that evil? It's a woman. So I think she could kind of pass herself off as that she's like an unfortunate scapegoat in this entire debacle. And then she'll be let out. And then what is Ghislaine, if she gets off, what is her future? What does somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell do if she walks? Does she do like Kyle Rittenhouse go on all these shows? Just do a bunch of interviews? Or does she go retire quietly outside of the U.S.? Or maybe not, because there's no double jeopardy. Maybe she would get fucked with in other countries. Maybe she goes and lives the rest of her life quietly. Whitney Webb said she doesn't believe they're going to put Robert Maxwell's daughter in jail. I don't know. Did anyone ask Ghislaine about that picture at In-N-Out Burger where she's reading a book called The Secret Lives of Intelligence Agents? Does anybody ask her about that trolling and why she was doing that? Has that even come up? Has the media thought to discuss that at all or no? Probably not. But I hope she gets on. I hope she gets on the stand. I hope she gives a speech. I hope it's moving. And then I hope she gets off. Just to make a point. I hope she gets off. And then I hope there's a reality show on Bravo about Ghislaine Maxwell. Or she joins the cast of a Real Housewives franchise. And all those dumb, brainless bitches have to look into the camera and go, everybody has opinions about Ghislaine, but I like to treat people the way I'd like to be treated. You know, these dumb, thoughtless bitches on TV. I like to treat people the way I like to be treated. So I only judge people from my experience with them. You know, and you see like the Ghislaine Maxwell. Can you get the Real Housewives music up? Like get the Real Housewives intro music up, because it would be nothing better than having her join the cast of one of these franchises. And then everybody's going to have to talk about, you know, how they're giving her a second chance. See if you can get like season 1 opening credits up, just the music. It makes so much sense for this woman to just go into entertainment. Everybody in LA will embrace her. She'd be on the show and it would be like, you know, my experiences with Ghislaine have been overwhelmingly positive. I don't read the press. You know, and then the next bitch would be like, I judge people based on what I know. If I didn't see it, it's not real. Ghislaine is a real character and has been through a lot. And I believe friends exist to support each other. Ghislaine's been through a lot of drama, but I'm not here for drama. I'm here to support and uphold other women. And that's what you would have. And it would be easy and we'd all forget. This is not a country built on remembering things. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if this country was built on like actually remembering things? We move on. TimDillonComedy.com. Tickets to shows. We'll be rejoining Ben Avery. We'll be seeing if they don't do these lockdowns in the UK. We don't know if they're going to or not. Absent the lockdowns, we'll see you guys in the UK. And we'll be back on YouTube coming up. We have a studio in LA being built right now. Very excited about the debut of the new studio. Probably best case, late December, early January. And we're really, really pumped about that. And that's all we can say. We know you think it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. Sit down with Gary Vee, hopefully in the works. Love to do a podcast with him. Let's get into these NFTs. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am. I'd love to be wrong. Makes a lot. I'd rather sell my shit directly to people than sell it to Netflix or HBO. Back to Blood, Tom Wolfe, great book about Miami. If you have any interest in reading, don't read the Maxwell coverage. It's not there. It doesn't exist unless you want an in-depth profile of the sketch artist, because that's what it's really about. Who's drawing in the court? What makes them tick? Anyway, Tim Dillon Comedy, tickets. Follow us on Instagram, Tim J. Dillon. Tim J. Dillon on Twitter. I never plug those things, but I'm told by people I should and that it matters. So I'm not one of those guys who every day is like, hit me on social, second like and subscribe. But if you do want to go over to YouTube and subscribe to the Tim Dillon Show, that does help. Effectively, it does help. I'm not making that up. That's real. We thank Manny Garavito, the Latin Ben Avery here in Miami. We have to leave Miami tomorrow. Miami puts a spell on you, but we have to leave. And I will come back at a later date, hopefully with cheaper real estate. Goodbye.